afternoon, everybody. It is Monday. It is the PGA DFS First Look Show for the WGC Workday. And for all you West Coasters out here watching this, it's still the morning time, so I won't say good afternoon, I guess, to you guys. But sadly, we move away from you guys for quite a while, and we come to my home state for the next month in the Florida swing. And it's going to start off with the WGC Workday it's actually called, let's give it the real name, the WGC Workday Championship at the Concession. Jeff, that's what we're calling it here this week. The best of the best are here to play, top 50 in the world. And Jeff, before I bring you on, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsor of our show, Monkey Knife Fight. Their player-based props contests are easy to play and don't require the time commitment that other DFS sites require in order to be competitive. With Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. Whether you want to play NBA, UFC, PGA, esports, or soccer, Monkey Knife Fight has it. To get started, head on over to monkeyknifefight.com and choose which game you want to play, your contest type, and your buy-in. Even better, when you sign up with promo code Awesemo, you will get an instant first match deposit of $50 or more. So sign up today. Jeff, are you happy to get away from the West Coast, or are you sad to leave it behind?
I'm a little bit of both, but the West Coast can be a bit of a grind, right? Like, I mean, you get some good events, but you get like Pebble Beach and the Pro-Ams mixed in there too. So I really like the Florida swing. Especially it's like, winter is kind of ending when we get to Florida too, or it's getting close. So I like that. That's nice. There's good things on the horizon. The Florida swing is one of my favorite parts of the year. So I'm not sad. Like, I'm not like happy to see the West Coast go, but 7 tournaments out there is enough. I think that's perfect. Now we hit like some of these big events, some really good courses out here in Florida. I just like the Florida swing a little bit more. So excited to get it going. Is that a Mickey Mouse golfer on your shirt?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it is. Isn't it? Repping the brand as always. The guy, amazing.
So these ones you can only find at the Pro Shop here in Walt Disney World.
Oh,
just want to make sure.
A rare. Look out!
I get that plug right in that
up.
You know what? Next time, I think, Jordan, if you don't mind, just audio clip this for me so I can bring it into the Pro Shop next time. Maybe they'll give me a free shirt or something like that. But in any case, I'm about an hour from the course here in Florida, and we've had some unseasonably wet weather. My vegetables love it, but the golf courses are certainly going to be wetter than normal here. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and do our quick little review of last week. And first, we're going to start off with a tweet that I put out last night, and it means tremendous amount, certainly to Max Homa, but it also means that there's a little more undertone to this, and it's Homa at home. The guy who wins on his home course. Now, granted, he was coming in with really good form. 42nd, maybe the week before wasn't great, but before that, everything looked really sharp. So maybe this wasn't a surprise winner, but Jeff, it would be remiss again if we didn't bring up the fact that this guy loves it here, and it's his home course, and he was trending with good form.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually even missed the fact it was his home course before. I did bet Max Homa. He was in my bag of bets. So, I mean, obviously I like the form and what I saw coming in. I think Max Homa is a little bit underrated as a talent. He's strong off the tee. He's got a really nifty short game when he's on. So, but he is more of a West Coast guy. And we've seen him trend well, like Pebble at this event last year. So he just made sense to me from the trend perspective last week, but sure. I actually missed that this was kind of like his home course and he had this much personal affiliation to it. So it made even more sense after the fact. Guy coming in with that good form, kind of getting over the hump. I really like him though. I mean, he talked about all the positive affirmations and stuff he uses after. I think that stuff is so key among pro athletes. I mean, the talent is everything, but is a lot of it. But, having mental stuff like that, he obviously focuses a lot on things like that. So just a kind of a cool, well-rounded guy. Really happy to see him get his win at an important event for him. And obviously happy for me because I cashed in. He was 60-1. I mean,
it's a pretty good bet. Now, I've got something else for you on Max Homa. You ready for this?
Yes.
This is an interesting one. We know he loves Twitter. If you follow him on Twitter at MaxHoma23, he's got a fun presence. He's got those videos of critiquing golf swings, and he's got a really good personality. However, if you notice, when he goes kind of off the grid on Twitter, he doesn't talk, he doesn't respond to people, he's just kind of tweeting at his tee times. Normally, a really good finish follows that. So just interesting, wanted to bring that up. Like, if he's not talking on Twitter, obviously it's the other way for Brooks Koepka, right? But for Max Homa, it seems like that's been the trend. And funny enough, Shane Macon, who's an announcer also does the podcast with Max Homa. I forgot what it's called. Get a Grip, maybe. Anyways, he actually tweeted that out and was like, hey, this is the longest Max Homa's been off of Twitter. There's a win this following. So anyways, wanted to bring that up. But let's go ahead and move on to our second topic of the day. And that's some big time missed cuts. Not just missed cuts, too. These guys were almost in DFL. And I'm sure we all know what that stands for. Let's start off first with Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas, Geoff. It was atrocious. What do you make of it? Was it just the conditions got to them? They weren't prepared? Or the last one, the trend of you need to miss a cut before you win on the PGA Tour?
So,
which Max Homa did break, but
Max Homa finally broke that trend. And again, there's some pretty serious trends at Riviera with guys coming in with solid form at Pebble and stuff. But the Rory thing, it really seemed like he just got off to a bad start on the greens, and it just kind of bled into the rest of his game. And when you get behind on a course like Riviera, man, like it's not easy to just go out and shoot 65 the next day on Riviera. I mean, it is a serious golf course. We had tough conditions, so I'm okay giving Rory a small pass. I mean, look, it took me a couple hours this morning, but I'm already kind of back on the Rory train. And, maybe the miscut and the kind of just like finally he's taken the weekend off. It might be what Rory needs because he's been close. He's been getting himself in and it's frustrating. So maybe the couple days off will just center him, much like it did center Brooks Koepka coming into Phoenix.
Yep.
I'm certainly not going to discount him too much. The off the tee play is still there. I think the move to Florida helps Rory. He's been a better Florida player over his career. He's got 3 wins there, some of the biggest wins of his career. So, Bryson, he played better in the second round too, better ball striking. I think the guy I'm most worried about right now is Thomas. We saw some regression in his start before that with the irons and around the green and stuff. And he's been so consistent with the irons for a bit. So Thomas is a guy I'm okay kind of staying away from. He's got the off the course stuff going. Some of it's just, it's whatever.
It can be a lot, especially if that's all he's hearing and being asked about.
Exactly. Some of it's self-inflicted and some of it's like obviously really unfortunate personal news. But, it's just a guy like I'm okay staying away from Justin Thomas for a couple events here and seeing when he can get it going again. But Bryson and Rory, I'll give him a pass. Jet lag for Rory or jet lag for Bryson. Rory is due for that kind of, I think long-term probably might even help Rory. So.
Yeah, and before I give you mine, Gene, thank you for the
let's get this is important stuff here.
How many packs am I going to buy? Well, I'm going to guess 0 because they're probably not going to come out with any. But if they do come out with them, I'll maybe try and hop in line. I got my buddy Matt Smith, Sammy Knoll, trying to let me know. At least I told him to let me know. We'll see if that happens. Anyways, okay. My thoughts on it. First off, I think it's going to get around the industry pretty quickly that the 2015 NCAA Championship was held here. Was won by Bryson DeChambeau. Okay. What does that mean? That was in 2015. We're 6 years removed from that. And Bryson is a legitimately totally different golfer. He's a totally different person too. He's massive now, but I still like him for the golf course. Also, his last 10 holes last week, Jeff, 4 under par with a lot of missed birdie putts. So I think he found something there later on in that round. I'm okay going right back to Bryson, especially at 20-1. First click segment, maybe a little tease. Definitely going to be my first click, no doubt about it. Justin Thomas, I agreed. I played him last week. Thought it was a great leverage spot. In fact, when we go over our pro review play, so did our buddy Alex Awesemo Baker. Problem is, I think there's maybe a little bit too much going on off the course where it's just distracting me. He's not in top form right now. He will be in top form again soon. He's one of the best players in the world. But right now, you can get a lot more comfort and safety with other golfers. So I think it's a bad miscut for Thomas. I was a little nervous about Rory's because it was really bad. Nothing looked
It was pretty bad.
So, of course, I'm okay playing him, but I would rather go to Bryson. I think Bryson looked the best out of the 3, and I'm actually okay going back to Bryson this week. So, all right, let's move on. We have the NHL show coming up right after this. So we're going to move a little bit quickly through the review portion of it, and then, of course, get into our talk. Early on, I think pricing dropped at like 146 today, and it's 210 Eastern Standard. So I don't even know if Jeff has had a chance to look at them. I can't even tell you where Colin Morikawa is priced yet. So as we go on in the show, we'll certainly take a look at it and be able to give you our thoughts and views. But let's go ahead and go on to our third topic here, which is our DFS review, where we just kind of go over some of the best values of the week, the optimal lineup, the top GPP lineup, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and start with our DFS review. And last week, obviously, no surprise, Max Homa 14.69x. Sam Burns, thought one of the most interesting names, and he continued to play well throughout the weekend, was CT Pan. And then throw out Patrick Rogers, kind of another course history guy there. Scott Harrington was also up there. When you see something like this, Geoff, when you see a lot of low-priced guys as good values, do you think it makes it easier to cash or harder to cash in that sense?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say harder to cash probably on the full, the long run. I mean, I know I had a couple, like a 5 of 6 that, looked okay, but I mean, like I just didn't hit the right values, like you were saying. And it kind of just, blew up over the weekend. So I would say it's probably makes it a little bit harder. It was kind of that week where, if you hit the right kind of values, you definitely could get some good leverage with guys like Rogers, especially. Yep. Coming out of nowhere. Rogers is pretty good. Another West Coast dude though. I mean, he's kind of been a pretty consistent West Coast performer most of his career. And, guys like Wyndham Clark, similar. If you hit the right notes there, I mean, you really got an advantage, but it is harder. And those type of players are just more boom or bust. They're less consistent, right? So hitting them, I think, is a little bit harder. The only guy I really regret not playing is Wyndham Clark. We've talked about him a little bit on the show for sure over the last 6 months. And I don't know why I haven't stayed on him the last couple events, but wasn't in my group last week. Kind of hurt me not getting a little piece of that. But yeah, definitely. I think it made it a little bit harder to cash.
Yeah, and I think he either came into the week with a hurt back or hurt his back during the week. Thinking about withdrawing, ended up gutting it out and getting a top 10 at a invitational. Really, really impressive from Wyndham Clark, but certainly want to keep an eye on that back injury. That's one. Unlike the finger injury from Tyler McCumber, I'm a bit more worried about the Wyndham Clark back injury. I think the McCumber questionable how it happened type of injury, was closing a window at the hotel opening a window at the hotel to make it colder. He was airing it out. Let's be serious. We all know what that means. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the ownership portion of it. Top 10 owned. Geoff, 3 top 10s and only 2 miscut. Means it was a pretty good 6 of 6 yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you really needed to either, like I said, if you had like 5 or 6 or something, you needed to hit the right values, or you kind of needed a 6 of 6 for sure this week. And it's funny because we had big names miss the cut, but overall, you're right. Like, when I looked on Friday, I really thought the carnage was going to be worse, but you had
McIlroy came in kind of under-owned too.
Exactly, because Rory was really under-owned. You're right. I mean, Hideki was really under-owned too. I used Hideki last week, and if we have time to flash my lineup up, I'm never using Hideki again. But I was really pumped at the start of the week. I'm like, holy cow, like Hideki under 7% owned here. I mean, like, let's go. This is a great leverage spot. It's kind of same for Rory, but these guys just couldn't get it going. They ended up being like 2 of the bigger miscuts of the week, but really not that big. If you even if you had some of them, if you were had 150 lineups and you had more exposure to guys like Xander Cantlay. So yeah, it was definitely a week where you needed to not only hit like 5 or 6 guys, but you needed your values to perform.
Sure did. Matthew Neesmith showing up again. I want to bring his name up. He was on that page of one of the best values on the slate. So, okay, let's go on to our optimal lineup review. Just a quick one where I go over it. It used 49,600 this week. Nobody below 7,400. Nobody above 9,300. Tony Finau, Victor Hovland continue to be some of the best players in the world right now, or hottest, I should say. Maybe not best, hot. They are some of the best too, but certainly the hottest. Victor Cameron Smith showed up again on, an Augusta comp course. I heard that thrown around a bit. Obviously, Max Homa. Matthew Fitzpatrick, he was a fade for me last week, even though he ended up coming in 7% owned. He was a big miss, and of course, Sam Burns in there as well. And when we match that up with the top GPP lineup, let me tell you something. This, which is naked or something like that. Snake Diem is how it's read left to right. He did 20, or she did 20 entries and won both the $15 and $55 with this one entry that you see in front of your screen. Sweet. Which used 5 of 6 of the optimal, but instead of using 400 salary and getting Cam Smith, it went up to Joaquin Niemann, and it still won everything, Geoff. I mean, there wasn't a contest that this lineup couldn't have won, and it did a cleanup for Snake Diem 17.
So the one with Cam Smith was the optimal, right? They
yep.
used 40. Yeah. So I mean, I look at this lineup and I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like this
It's
just
so
feels
easy.
like very gettable,
Yeah.
like very, very
Like
balanced.
you click it when you're just filling out one of your first lineups and you could have landed on it.
This
Yeah.
feels just like okay, this looks pretty good. I'm going to go with a balanced lineup. I mean, I talked about Homa, Burns. I was Burns and Homa. I just about bet Burns instead of Homa. So those guys were both on my list. Fitzpatrick, I knew was a great value at 7,600. He was a guy I was flipping in and out of lineups. Cam Smith was a guy I didn't consider that much, but like quality player. Maybe like the lowest owned and hardest to get to, I guess, if you're looking at recent form, but really not that hard to get to because he's Cam Smith and he's got a good record here.
Yep.
Hovland was simple. I mean, he's like the best.
I think he was the easiest play on the slate, truthfully.
Totally. And then Finau is Finau. I mean, Finau's always in play, especially under 9,500. So
let's talk about it, if you don't mind. In his interview with Dottie Pepper, it actually looked like he was the most affected by a loss of coming in second or losing in a playoff of any other ones. It really looked like he was hurt by this one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, guys, I mean, we got almost 100 people watching. Definitely smash that like if you could, as we're talking here and getting going on Monday. It would really help us out. But as far as Finau goes, I mean, I tweeted this out. Like I had a piece of Homa. I hedged a little bit when he missed the 3-footer, so it kind of hurt me a little bit. But I still had most of my money on Homa going into playoff. I did not want to see Tony Finau lose, man. Like I feel for that guy. He's a really good guy. He's out there grinding. He plays top 10s. He's so consistent. He's so good, Jason, at golf.
It's unbelievable.
It's getting hard to watch. And like, I do not want to cheer against him. So yeah, I agree. Like it definitely, this one affected him. And the fact he was even in position after shooting, what did he shoot? 64?
Yeah,
on Sunday in tough conditions at Riviera. Like Homa was the next closest guy at like 500.
What does he have to do to win?
He played so good. So good. I mean, it's just like you can't fault him for that. I mean, none of the other elite players were doing anything. Nope. Dustin had a chance. What do you say? I mean, it'll come. It's just winning is so hard. There's such thin edges. There's guys who don't do anything and then they just hit the right notes on one week and they get 3 wins. And then it's just variance. It sounds, I know it's an easy cop out, but like winning is hard and there's a lot of variance that goes into winning. And Finau is just on the wrong side of it right now. And hopefully at some point in his career, he goes on like a 3-win run or something. It'll probably happen because that's how talented he is, but it is getting hard to watch.
It is.
Ryan Stubbs says Tony wiping his tears with $100 bills.
No,
exactly.
it definitely is true. We shouldn't feel that bad for him.
No.
I think he might have even pulled in over $1 million again. Last week, even coming in second, it was real close to that being an invitational. The thing with Finau is the guy hits it behind a tree who he's playing against, somehow get out of it. Then still Finau has a chance to win with a 6-footer.
And yeah, I mean, look, we can criticize him a little bit. He had 2 putts. Like he could have kept the playoff going.
Yep.
And he could have won the event.
Saw the line too.
Those are makeable putts. It was a tough leave he left himself on 10 there. Not the smartest chip, right? Like you want the uphill putt there, but yeah, still kind of unlucky. I mean, Max Homa just playing like a wizard. I mean, I was like, okay, Max can get it, like so he'll have an easy chip, but like to get it on the green from there was insanely good. So
it was so cool how he hooded it. It was just everything. Loved everything about it. So. Yep. Okay, before we move on to our pro review, where we take a look at mine, Alex's, how Snake Diam measured out his 20 lineups, and of course, RJ Rat, who is yet again the top GPP performer. I can't believe this guy is just on a roll right now. But I want to turn your attention. We got NHL and NBA ownership projections free today. Of course, if you're not already an Awesemo Plus member, get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass, just $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools, including ownership projections, player projections, premium Slack, and much more. Of course, if you just want to join Jeff, Ben, the rest of the golf team on just for PGA, $8.95 is the full price. And of course, we got express packages going on there as well. So come on and check us out. And this is how our breakdown ended up last week. Alex Awesemo Baker, well, he started off, I already teased it with Justin Thomas, 38% of his lineups gone pretty much after Thursday's round, to be honest with you. There's no chance after shooting 7 over, Thomas was going to come back and make that cut. Did find his way to Tony Finau, 26%, but maxed it up with, again, 21% Rory. Two of your top guys missed some cut. You're not going to do anything. Found his way to some other good golfers. I decided to go into Doc Redman. I think I said to you last week, I'm like, this might be the last time I play him, but he seems like a perfect spot right now for him. Well, it wasn't. It was brutal. Yeah. He shot 2 over for the 2 days. So 28% of my lineups were gone right away. I did find myself Victor Hovland, like I said. Spieth and Cantlay again performed pretty well. For the most part, so did Morikawa. But it was the McIlroy, Thomas, Redmond that I couldn't get away from. You see Wyndham Clark there for me as well. Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris, Max Homa even. I had 21% Homa. Still couldn't find my way to a profitable week in GPP, even with the 21% Homa. So it's just what goes to show you what happens when a couple of your core misses the cut. Any comments before we move on to the second one?
No, I mean, it was, again, you had to pick out the right values. Obviously you went on Redmond. If you had gone with like a Brandon Grace or someone like that, or someone else, I mean, it would have been a huge difference, but those value guys were so important, Clark and stuff like that. So you did the right thing by taking Cantlay. I mean, just taking the easy money, so to speak, there with like Schauffele too. I guess, yeah, I mean, getting just a little bit of Thomas and McIlroy would have hurt you too, but it does suck because you were overweight the winner. So that's always like a good spot to be, but.
Yeah, I had one lineup. It came in 91st in that $15. So for all intents, was a really good lineup.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a chance. It was Homa Finau, but I think it had like Adam Hadwin. Didn't have Sam Burns at that same price level as Adam Hadwin. So again, a really quality lineup, but 91, in the $15 obviously would have won some secondary contests, but they were not in it. So take a look at my big dollar lineups coming up next, but let's go into number 2, RJ Rat. Let's see how this guy keeps getting it done. Again, his top owned guy, second straight week, Geoff, that his top guy missed the cut in Loop List, 34%. He came in 8th, not first. I'm sorry, I forgot to update that. So he didn't come in first again. You see that on your screen to the right. I apologize. He found his way to Cameron Smith, though. The only pro that I looked at that found his way to Cam Smith, also matched that up with Matt Fitzpatrick. Also had a good core, had DJ in there, had Tony Finau, so no surprise to see him have a good week. But Snake, Diam said, for all of you that only play 20 lineups a week, felt like this was a really good breakdown. He had 33 total golfers in those 20 lineups, 14 of them over 20%, so really tight core, and pretty much just hit on everybody. Cantlay, Fitzpatrick, Finau, Rahm, Homa was in there as well, Finau, Hovland. So again, just a really good allocation. But if you're a 20 entry person, take a look at how this guy did it. I really think it's a great balance. I would even maybe said too many golfers, Geoff, for 20 lineups. 33 seems maybe just on the top end.
Yeah, for sure. For 20 lineups, it's like I would normally try and stay maybe even under 30 or something like that. But absolutely, yeah, good allocation. I don't disagree at all with anything you just said. RJ Rat, wasn't he the dude who was on the list before too, really big?
Yeah, won last week with him. So he was probably just pressed on his luck.
Yeah, exactly right. So I actually liked List last week too. He really fell apart on Friday though, which was really annoying. But yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to add too much here. Because then we can spend more time on other stuff. But I like the allocations of both these guys. It's definitely something you can look at and go back and almost try and copy because it's a good way to go about it.
For sure. All right, so just part of our little transparency corner here, the last bit of our review where I give we give our biggest lineups, I'll call it. And for me, that you see in front of you, this is 200. I actually missed on both of my $500 lineups, which really actually hurt the week. My GPP wasn't that bad. It's like I think I got back 97% of what I put in, so just a small loss. But when you miss on your 2 biggest lineups, that hurts. This was my 3rd biggest lineup in the $200. And if Bubba Watson had made the cut, maybe this would have made noise. It did have Burns and Finau, so a pretty decent lineup mixed in with Scott Scheffler. You see how I did that? That was cool. Matthew Neesmith as the last one. But the more important lineup I wanted to bring you to, and this is something I'm going to continue to do each week. We go to my FanDuel lineup, and the FanDuel lineup that I built last week would have cost you $53,600 on DraftKings.
Okay.
Looking back on it now, obviously it was the easiest lineup for you to make. Brendan Steele was the min price. Obviously, that helps. But the pricing inefficiencies, I was able to just take advantage of it. John Rahm and Dustin Johnson were my horses. Molinari, 0.8%. Again, another home course scenario there. So Just want to bring that up. It's a real quality lineup, yet you weren't even being close to doing it on DraftKings.
Right. Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea. Absolutely. Like looking at both sites, seeing what you can get and just looking at the market inefficiencies, right? I mean,
Yep.
I don't disagree with that idea at all. I think especially, using DraftKings as the base and then, looking what you can do with it on other sites makes a ton of sense. And, you'll get an idea maybe of what ownerships levels will be like too, when you're looking at that, like guys who will just be coming up at bigger ownership levels on different sites. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's an interesting way to go about it. Where did that lineup finish for you on FanDuel?
Yeah, it finished 26th. It started the weekend in 10th, but then it backed up with DJ not even finishing in the top 5 there. And obviously Joaquin Niemann was tied for second going into the weekend, and
yeah, you had a terrible weekend.
Terrible. So it was looking good. Again, I loved the Will Zalatoris and Molinari plays in that lineup. That ownership difference between the two sites was a really big edge for me. And those two guys were great, but Burns was in the same price as Molinari, so that's why it wasn't finished a little higher. Finished well in the cash. A good lineup. Also won me a couple satellites, so did get back quite a bit from me last week. But all right, that is enough of me for the Genesis Invitational. Although I had a lot of fun, I am ready to move on to the concession. We're going to talk about the WGC Workday Championship at the Concession, a private golf course just about an hour from me here in Bradenton, Florida. A par 72 measuring 7,500 yards. And Geoff, what I did was cool thing. I because it was used as an NCAA championship, Blue Golf has a course flyover that allows you to kind of take a look at the course, put two distance between points. So I did a lot of that in the first cut article that I do each week. I gave you kind of my breakdown of 1 to 18, how I thought it was going to score and such. So one of the themes was water hazards. A ton of water hazards off the tee, both left and right. If you are missing off the tee this week, you will be hitting 3 quite a bit for your second shot. A couple of other things, not that long though. A lot of places to hit driver, and the fairways are quite wide. I know it's ranked as one of the hardest courses in the area, so that means the green complexes have to be difficult, right? In my first cut article, I mentioned that Tampa Bay Journal has rated it the hardest, even more so than Copperhead. So if it's generous fairways and just a little water, obviously green complexes will be in play this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've read about the course, and I kind of did a similar thing. I think I used the Pro Visualizer site or whatever, but just take a little look overhead, and I've read it's got small Bermuda greens. It's a Jack Nicklaus. I think it's a Jack Nicklaus, Tony Jacklin like combo design or something, but it's got Jack Nicklaus. We know Jack Nicklaus from the tour, PGA National, Muirfield. They're hard courses. Like it's not going to be an easy setup. And from what I've heard, not from what I've heard, but from what I've viewed, like you said, bigger fairways, but longer carries over water and tough green complexes. Reminds me a little bit of Durrell, to be honest, too. Just the way it sets up. Maybe like a combo of like Durrell, Bay Hill, Valspar. It looks like a traditionally tough Florida course. And I think that's going to play into the hands. And again, we're speculating here. I don't know. I've never played the course, but I think it's going to play into the hands of the bigger hitters, kind of similar to what Durrell did and what Bay Hill does sometimes throughout the years. So I think good off the tee play, good strokes gain tee to green play. And I'm expecting like not a ton of birdies to be made here. The par 5s look tough. If the wind gets up even a little, could get dicey. So I think this is going to be a fun course.
Me too. A couple of more notes on it. I think the Muirfield Village, in terms of the green complexes, could play as a really nice comp. Obviously, that leads me to somebody like a Colin Morikawa, obviously, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. Couple of other notes that I had on the course. First off, it's inland a little bit from Tampa Bay. It's kind of set. I don't know if anyone's come down to this area in Florida, but if you played Streamsong, it's right over there by Streamsong, which means it's a little wide open. There's a ton of land there, and because of that, Nicholas designed it that each hole is kind of its own world, where if you miss the 6th tee, you're not going to end up on the 9th fairway. There is absolutely no chance of that happening here. You will be in the Everglades, if you will. Maybe we're a little too north for Everglades to start, but I call it the native Florida or Gulf Coast area. So definitely going to be a lot of that. I do think there are some gettable holes. There's a drivable par 4 on the backside. A couple of the par 5s should also be gettable by the longer hitters. So I have a comp score as Waste Management, TPC Scottsdale, where I have the toughness of the course measuring something like Muirfield. So somewhere in that middle, a good scoring week. Shouldn't be Shouldn't be as low scoring as Riviera, but probably not as high scoring as something like the Tournament of Champions, I would say. Now let's go ahead and move on to the field. Got a little interesting one, but before we do, I want to turn you over. It's getting very close to March. We always know what that means. It is college basketball time. And we have a college basketball promo running right now, just in time for March Madness. Our college basketball DFS projections are now behind the paywall, and you can access those for half off the first week when you use promo code COLLEGE. That's $4.98 for your first week of college basketball DFS. This offer is valid through Sunday, 2/28. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. So, random golfers here this week, Geoff. I mentioned a few in our pre-notes. Why don't you tell us a few players that we might not know coming here this week?
Yeah. So, as far as guys, coming in down near the bottom, I mean, you got a guy like Christian Bezuidenhout going to be in the field, won twice in South Africa towards the end of 2020. And Bezuidenhout's definitely on my radar. It was T18, at Arnold Palmer last season. Really good short game, really good putter. Won at Valderrama a couple years ago in really tough conditions. I like him. Shane Lowry's going to be here as well. I'm not sure how much Shane's actually played this year, but he's looking cheap on DK as well. You got Thomas Dietrich here, another quality Euro player. Might be someone worth looking at. And everyone's favorite Danish treat, Rasmus Højgaard.
Yes.
He's in the field, folks. So there's going to be some really good young Euro talent, in all seriousness, really to go along with what we got here. Going down, Lucas Herbert, Van Ruin, a couple other guys I want to look at. Those are the names that really kind of pop out. Dietrich, Højgaard, Bezuidenhout, and Burton Wiesberger at 6,700. Definitely should give him a shout. But some good Euro names we haven't seen for a while. Typically guys who tend to play more too on the Florida swing.
Yeah, so the qualifications to get in, obviously, it's a WGC, so it's the top 50 in the world. That's the first one. A couple of more, the top 30 from last year's FedEx Cup point list. Gets in guys like Munoz, Mackenzie Hughes, Lanto Griffin, and Camp Champ. Certainly some interesting names there. Then the top 20 players from the 2020 race to Dubai. You mentioned Rasmus Højgaard. He's in that. You mentioned Herbert. I think there's probably Herbert. I don't know. That's a tough one to pronounce for me because I've heard it.
I think he pronounces it Herbert because he's Australian.
It's Herbert, okay.
So there's not. I know in Canada it would be Herbert, but
Herbert, right? Yeah. Anyways, Aaron Rye, another player you might not know. Sami Valimaki, Laurie Cantor, Thomas Dietrich are the European names, and then got a couple of random ones from the Australia, Asia, and Japan tour. Brad Kennedy, Minwoo Lee, Yuki Inumura, and Chan Kim. That measures up or completes the field there. Now, I think that's a perfect segue into talking about our first clicks. But of course, before I do, if you're interested in watching this show, of course, but you cannot watch it on YouTube or any way else, Periscope, whatever else we have it on, through video, make sure you check out our podcast feed. Not able to watch it on YouTube. Almost all of our YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast for every single sport. We're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out the latest. And also don't forget, when we reach 30K on Twitter, we're only 400 people away from that.
Oh, wow.
We're going to give away 30 weekly passes. So tell your friends, we're real close. And then, of course, be on the lookout for that giveaway. All right, now let's talk about first clicks. And while, I mentioned Bryson might be one, I wanted to go down the beaten path with you and click Matthew Wolff's name at triple. Now, I have a reason to it. I think that the 50-yard wide fairways here this week will find his golf ball a lot, or he'll find the fairways a lot more than he did last week, and his irons and putter actually look like they're in really good shape. So I think it's a good bounce back spot for him. He's 110-1. We know he can probably win in a field like this, but my correlation is whenever Bryson plays well, Wolff has also played well. So I'm going to go with that theme, and I'll take the 20-1 on Bryson and the 110-1 on Wolff as two of my first clicks.
Yeah, you're reading my mind today, man. We're in sync here. If you're ever going to take a shot on Wolff, I think this is where it is. At Riviera, I mean, it's a tough bounce back spot, but we got a whole new set of courses. It's a different setup. And realistically, you look at Wolff's history, Jason, like his form coming into the Detroit, whatever it is, Rocket Mortgage, I think Rocket Mortgage Classic last year, it was like miscut, T50, miscut. Like, the dude has done this before. He just struggles and then he gets it going. And when he gets it going, he's so elite at what he does that everything is wiped clean. And at some point, this dude's going to click again. And it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be like, oh yeah, Matt Wolff finished T20. It's going to be Matt Wolff was like in contention and maybe won the event. So I think at T90, or sorry, 90 to 1 or better, whatever he is on DraftKings, 110, this is the time to take a shot. I think, you know, you can go with the each way or a top 10 as well, give yourself a little bit of backing, but these odds are ridiculous. Scotty Scheffler's 40 to 1, 50 to 1, and Matt Wolff's 90 to 1, 100 to 1. Just out of principle, I'm putting some money on Matt Wolff this week, 100%. And I think we're both dead on in the same page here that these are wide open fairways. It's a Matt Wolff style course. If Bryson can have success here with the way he kind of just powers it out there, Wolff can too. So I'm complete lockstep. Not sure what I'm gonna do with him for DFS or how much I'll have. I don't think I'll have to have too much to be over the field, but betting, absolutely, I'll be investing.
Yeah, and again, I think, you know, 7,600 for Wolff in a no cut event. Yeah, not bad. I think
exactly. No cut event, tons of birdies.
I think maybe you're getting something similar with Cam Champ at 6,500, who actually will play this week. He's listed as out right now, but that's because DraftKings has not updated their code from last week when he had to withdraw. Obviously, couldn't get out of Texas or decided not to get out. Different than Abraham Answer, who tried to get out and missed the cut. Okay, now I had 2 more clicks, and I put out my first click betting video every Monday morning when the odds drop. And these 2 guys I mentioned, and you also just mentioned the Danish special, Rasmus Højgaard. He's coming in off 2 back-to-back top 10s, Geoff, and this is a guy that when he catches form, he doesn't lose it for a little while. Mm-hmm. Reminds me of something like Ches Reavie a little bit, but this guy's also 19, and Reavie is a lot older than 19.
Yep.
But we saw last year when he came out of COVID, he had like 2 wins in a matter of 4 weeks. So back-to-back top 10s at 175 to 1. I don't think he can win in this field, but certainly something like a top 10 or 20 where you're going to see value.
Yeah. I don't mind. I mentioned Bezuidenhout, but you know, it's kind of the same deal with Højgaard. I mean, I'm not expecting either of these guys to win, but, you know, maybe bet both of them on the top 20. One of them will probably end up playing well. And, you know, these are big events for these guys. Like Højgaard with the top 20, that'd be huge for him. If he gets exactly like a top 10 for Højgaard in this field is as good as a win for some of these bigger names, right? I mean, so it's an important event. I wouldn't be shocked to see one or both play well. I'm with you there. You know, Højgaard even better value on DraftKings. So I like those guys for the top 20. Absolutely. Going to be targeting definitely Bezuidenhout and possibly Højgaard as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that these starts are so important for these guys, specifically McIntyre and Højgaard, who do not have any PGA Tour status at all. If they reel off some top 10s, top 15s in WGC events, plus we know they get into majors as well because of the Euro Tour standings, it's how you saw something like Eric Van Rooyen get special temporary membership, how Matt Fitzpatrick is now playing on the PGA Tour, and obviously it's more lucrative to play in the PGA Tour. I'm not trying to diss the European Tour at any stretch. We just see a trend. Obviously, we see all these guys come with Tommy Fleetwood, Ty Hatton, whatever it is. Now they're trying to play dual schedules. You can only do that if you have membership, of course, on both. So, all right, let's go into our DFS preview, which, of course, we'll mention a couple of more of our bets and such before we do so. At the top of the board, not going to lie to you, I think I did an okay job in my course and player preview. I nailed everybody where they'd be in the pricing, except for Thomas and McIlroy. I had McIlroy still coming in above Thomas, coming in above Thomas. That didn't happen. I did have Cantlay coming in above DeChambeau. What do you think of that? That's where I want to start. Patrick Cantlay, 10,000, and Bryson DeChambeau, 9,900. Do you think that 30% versus 13% ownership condenses this week?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely do. I think people will be apt to get on Bryson here. You know, the NCAA thing that we're already talking about, the setup, you know, things like that. I think it'll even out. At the same time, I don't think people are just going to forget that Patrick Cantlay has been like so consistent, but you know, people are a little bit onto what Bryson is bringing now, and it's a little bit more boomer bust. You know, but when he puts it all together and he gets on the right place with his driver and he gets in a groove, people know like when he's on, he doesn't just make cuts. He really performs. So I don't think Bryson's going to go under-owned this week at 9,900. At the same time, like I said, Cantlay's not going to go from like whatever he was last week to like 5% either. He's just playing too good. So, the guy who might get left out of this is Rory. Like I said, I'm still interested. So that might be like the tournament pivot there where you get lower ownership. Like I said, I was shocked that Rory was under 7% last week. His price really hasn't moved much. I can't see him being much more owned than that. So I think at this range, Rory might be the pivot. Cantlay and Bryson probably like really nice. If you're going for a balanced approach to start, I think about those two for sure.
I just saw in our chat, not surprising, it must be a code with how his name is spelled, but FanDuel does not have Rasmus Højgaard again in the field in their player pool. Happened again. I've already tweeted them. Thank you. I believe I saw it was Ryan that mentioned
Jason's
that.
on.
Oh, Jesus. They have it every single time they do it. I don't know why.
It's a little ridiculous.
It has to be a coding with his name.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
There's the way he spells it was that O with the line. You know how the Scandinavian and Denmark and those countries, they do it that way. It must be a coding thing. So anyways, I already added them. I'm on it. You want to play Højgaard on FanDuel like me, you should be able to by the time we lock here. So, okay. Dustin Johnson, 11,600. John Rahm, 11-1, back as 1-2. Do you find that the $800 from Johnson to Schauffele is worth it to pay for Johnson, or do you think Xander has closed that gap, especially with his ability to put up points? 72.5 last week for Xander, wasn't in the top 10. DJ had 75 and was, so clearly Schauffele is scoring.
I mean, maybe there's like a little bit of a concern, like DJ didn't quite, play that good on Sunday. Maybe he's just like due for like a little bit of like a regression period. But to me, no, I think it is worth it to pay up for Dustin Johnson. I mean, he's just so consistent week in, week out. We saw other guys jet lag, like Bryson not make the cut, or guys coming in not playing as much, and Dustin just kind of picked up where he left off.
He did.
I kind of expect, he loves this event. I mean, he's won it like 5 times or whatever, 4 times. But again, we talk about this being a good course for the big drivers. I mean, Dustin is still very much one of the best drivers of the golf ball, right? So, no, I think it is worth it. Schauffele's nice. Maybe fatigued a little bit after a couple being in contention a couple weeks, and I'm just I'd rather pay down if I'm going to use Schauffele than for a Bryson or even maybe a Finau than pay up for Schauffele. So no, I think paying up for Dustin is fine in this field, quite frankly. It is going to be hard to stack them with like a Cantlay or a Bryson. You might have to go down further, but I'd still rather pay up than get kind of lost. I almost feel like it's no man's land there with like Thomas and Schauffele. Not too interested in both guys this week. Rather just pay up. Maybe take the discount with Rahm over Dustin because Rahm's irons are starting to fire up. But yeah, I'm not too interested in Schauffele this week, to be honest. At least not right now.
So as we move down a little bit, going into the 9s, we got Bryson, who we talked about, we both like. Then there's Tony Finau and Ty Hatton right there, both some of the most hottest players in the world right now. Yep. Ty Hatton, he's only gone 1 T22, T6 in his last 3 starts. Tony Finau's gone 2-2-2. I mean, even throwing Victor Hovland, right? Look at his last 3 starts: T2, T6, T5. So what are you doing there? I mean, are you going to try and get a little bit of all of them? If you don't play the 10K guys, obviously we'd put 2 of those guys in there, I think. You can even throw in Patrick Reed, who he's coming off pretty good stuff. A win, I guess. Maybe not outside of the win. He's not looking good, but still a pretty good price. Daniel Berger coming off a win. I mean, you got a lot of names in this range.
Yeah, you do. Berger and Reed, should set up pretty well here. Good short games, good putters. If it gets a little greasy out there, the short games are going to come into play. I think this course is probably going to make Webb a fade, even though he really is good value down there at 9,100. He's so consistent, but I'd probably be more apt to go just pay up a little bit more to get Berger, Hovland. Man, yeah, this range is definitely going to take some getting used to. I think the clear probably best play is going to be Brooks here, and I kind of am thinking off the top here that Brooks is going to be the heaviest owned here. I don't think people are going to play Hatton over Brooks at this price. Hovland's still probably going to get some respect, but this range isn't super clear. I don't have a guy I necessarily am like right off the bat here. I got to play because I still think Brooks, even though he won, I'm not sure if he's back to like that super consistency where he can just kind of turn it on wherever he wants. Some still struggle a little bit, even when he was getting it going last week. So I'm not 100% sold on Brooks, but I do think he's going to be like, or he just is the best pure value in this range. So Brooks is interesting. I think Berger and Reed, one of them will probably make it down there because they're cheap. I think I'd rather play those guys over Webb, but that's pretty much as far as I'm committed there right now. It might be a range where I just go, with, like I said, the cheapest guys and then kind of look in the 8K range, because the 8K range to me is where there's like some pretty screaming values and guys you can easily fit in if you're going with like a Dustin to start.
So Victor Hovland, when the three-headed monster of Wolf, Hovland, and Morikawa came out of college, my first initial thoughts are, about a year and a half in, maybe somewhat on point. I thought that Hovland would end up being the most consistent. That's what we're starting to see now. Maybe it took him a little bit. Reason is I thought he had the most well-rounded game. I thought that his ball striking was the best out of the three. His short game probably the worst, but I thought that his ball striking was so good, he'd place a lot. Happened. Collin Morikawa, we know that he was kind of a one-trick pony. He's maybe the best iron player in the world when he's going with his irons. We know his volatility. And then Matt Wolff, it's kind of a drive for show and putt for dough type of guy, but he's lost his driver, so we've seen volatility there. With that being said, I think Hovland is a great play again. He showed me no reason not to play this guy. If he could get off to a better start, he would be in contention to win every week. Last week, again, got off to a bad start, ended up still in the top 5. So I love Victor here this week. I also love Collin Morikawa. I just mentioned that if the green complexes are going to play similar to Muirfield, well, we saw Morikawa win on that at the Workday. This is the Workday. So I'm going with a Workday. I'll be honest. If he wins this and Workday doesn't sponsor him, what is going on here? Not that I don't like Phil Mickelson in those commercials. He is kind of funny. I'd love to see Collin Morikawa in them as well. I feel like another win would do that. As we move down the board a little bit, we have not seen in the United States for quite a while the best hair on the PGA Tour, Tommy Fleetwood, and the best dressed. Best hair and best dressed. 8,900. I'm actually definitely interested in Tommy Fleetwood this week.
Okay, fair enough. Played. He's been playing overseas. He's played okay. T7 first time out. T26 at the Saudi. So he still seems to be searching for that like really good consistency that we're kind of used to him and flying up in like the top 5 in events like that. But I think he's definitely going to go a little bit under-owned here. I mean, I think that, even playing him over Morikawa, I definitely see the correlation with Morikawa. I'm just not sure, like he's changing putting grips. Putting is so variable. So maybe I shouldn't be as worried about that, but I am a little bit. I think I'd be okay going under Morikawa and looking at some of these names. I really like Sanjay this week.
Yeah, let's talk about Sanjay. He's not hurt, guys. It was moving into a house in Atlanta. That's why he hasn't played.
Finally getting a house.
Finally got a house. He's settling down in Atlanta area. That's why he took a couple of weeks off. Now, obviously, moving to the East Coast, he's going to come and he'll play every week here in the Florida swing, no doubt about it. So, do you think there's going to be some rust? I can't believe we're saying that about Sanjay M.
I mean, I guess there could be. He was looking really consistent with his putter and confident, so that's good. He's turned into like a real beast off the tee, very consistent off the tee. Maybe not quite up there with like Rory and Bryson, but kind of just behind. So I think this is going to be a good setup for him. Played well at the Bay Hill last year, which is, again, kind of, a lot of carries over water there. I like him, man. He's the target for me in this range for sure. Like I mean, even if his ownership gets up, I'd want to have some exposure. Putts better on Bermuda. I think Cam Smith could be interesting too. I don't know if he's ever really played that much over in Florida, but just a really good short game, good scrambler when it gets tough. I think I'd probably lean those two guys. I'm not sure if I'd probably lean Fleetwood over Smith just because I know Fleetwood long-term, probably the slightly better player. But I think Fleetwood and him, like I said, I'm not super sold on anyone in the 9K range. And I almost feel like just going down to like a Fleetwood and him combo, you might be getting better return there by the end of the week. So I'm definitely interested in Fleetwood. And I love Sanjay. And I might even throw Smith in that mix too. So it's the 8K range looking to me. I don't think there's a big enough difference between those guys and like Berger and Reed and Hovland from Fleetwood, him and Smith to make me pay up too much for those guys in the 9K range.
A first is happening this week, at least that I can remember. If somebody else has a first that beats this, let me know. We have a golfer that plays primarily on the PGA Tour, has never played a European Tour event, so that can't it doesn't qualify. If you have a European Tour golfer that doesn't qualify. We have a golfer this week that has qualified for this event, the WGC Workday, but is not qualified for next week's Arnold Palmer Invitational. That's Will Zalatoris. Believe it or not, this is the first time that we have a player that is not actually a full card-carrying member on the PGA Tour that actually is exempt from playing here, that is exempt for playing here, WGC. It's Will Zalatoris. Another quality showing last week. Both you and I said we liked him a lot better at Riv than we did at Pebble Beach. It paid off. He had a great week. Looked really good. Are you back in this week, or do you think you would rather see him in Florida play before you jump in?
No, I mean, he's played in Florida on the Corn Ferry and stuff like that. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, I one of the first players' salary I looked for, $8K. I can't see why people wouldn't be going there. The only thing that might, worry me is just the ownership. But I think just going at least field average with whatever ownership projections we get on Zalatoris. And again, if you get the Awesemo weekly pass, Alex puts out great ownership projections each week. Honestly, those alone pay for whatever, membership you're getting. If you're being honest, if you're doing PGA, they're good for all sports, but obviously I use them mostly for PGA. So, if you're worried about that, you can check those out on Awesemo if you get a pass. And at 8K, I think you'll be popular, but that's fine. I mean, tee to green, so consistent. I think, again, this is going to be a higher scoring week. It's going to be more of a grinded out. That's where you want Zalatoris, where the tee to green consistency is going to pay off. So no, I'm not overly scared of it. Florida, whatever. I look at this range. I am interested in Scheffler this week. Irons are really picking up. He's really consistent off the T2. So I think Scheffler and Zalatoris for me down here. I know we kind of skipped my lineup. I suck. All my lineups missed the cash line, but I'm never playing Hideki again, so he's off. Fitzpatrick, I think, is overpriced. Scott, I don't play Adam Scott that much. I'd rather play Scheffler or Zalatoris here. Those are the two guys down here in the 8K range. That really stick out to me.
Agreed. Zalatoris finished T26 at last year's Lee Com Sunset Classic. Why am I bringing this up? Well, we only have 2 minutes left, so I'm bringing this up because that tournament is actually held about a half hour from this golf course and was played last week. Again, why am I bringing this up? Well, there is actually a golfer in this field this week that played well last week and got into the field and is min-price, and that's David Lipsky. Lipsky is the guy that qualified, obviously, via his standings on the race to Dubai, where he plays most of his golf, but he has status on the Corn Ferry Tour this year. So he played last week. He obviously doesn't have to travel very far. So at the min-price, wanted to bring that up as kind of one of the last things we talked about. Here's a guy that we know can score. Obviously hasn't quite made it on the PGA Tour yet, but maybe coming up through the Corn Ferry Tour this year, he'll get his break next year. So wanted to leave with that, Geoff. Why don't you give us your best value? I know we already talked about Hogard, but somebody under 7K that isn't named Cam Champ, because obviously you and I pretty much auto-click them in no-cut events under 7K. Who's somebody else that some our fans here can roster before we get on here?
Yeah, for sure. My first instinct is to say Kevin Na, but I always worry about Kevin Na in these no-cut events. We saw him at the TOC, kind of just pack it in. I'm going to have to say Munoz. For me, he's such a good DraftKings scorer, man. Sebastian Munoz really is. I think in a no-cut event like this, and at 6,500, yeah, Munoz to me is he's the best.
Great call. Nice breakthrough last week. I know it had been a rough go of it. Even seeing the T43, it was really a Saturday round in the wind, and he cannot play in the wind. Augusta on Sunday, here again, Saturday at Riv, just really struggled. Other than that, it was good, 68, 71, 70 in the other three rounds. So love that. All right, well, we got NHL coming up. Terry McBride, Jay Carey on the mic in 5 minutes. So we're going to sign off, but of course, we've got the Tuesday show, Timothy Frank, Ben Raza, 2:30. And then, of course, Ben and I will be live before locking, 7 o'clock on Wednesday. So until then, everybody, thanks so much for coming by, and we will see you guys on the other side.